to the cloud. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good evening. It's 7 p.m. It's Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, and this is the Templeton Community Service District's Board of Directors meeting. And with the meeting called to order, may we have a roll call, please?
Directors English,
Present.
Fardanish,
Here.
Giardini,
Present.
Logan,
Present.
and Peterson.
Here.
Okay, and if you would, please mute your phone and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and order of business. Would any board member wish to change the order of business this evening? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll move to our special reports. And I don't have Chief Peterson back on Zoom just yet. I know he was going out to the Bay. There he is.
There we go. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll let you go ahead and do the introductions as soon as you've got the camera stabilized.
Okay. Do you want to turn that around? There we go. Okay. Good evening, and thank you, President Logan and members of the board. Tonight, I have the honor and the privilege of badging another member of our department. I kind of owe Justin a little bit of an apology. He should have been done a little while ago. But to give you a little background on Justin, he was born in San Luis Obispo, raised in Santa Margarita, graduated at Tascadero High School in 2019. So we've got a young one here. He got started in the fire service through going through the EMT program at Cuesta College. He's a couple of them that now have gotten interested in the fire service through that process. He was actually going to become a SLO County Sheriff's Deputy while he was going through the EMT program. And then he did a ride along with SLO City Fire Department and kind of changed his mind and started going down the path of the fire service. In 2019, he joined Santa Margarita Fire Department. And then in 2020, he joined us. His hobbies are fishing, hunting, riding ATVs, and he enjoys hanging out with family and friends. And he currently resides in Santa Margarita, and he's been doing a lot of overnight shifts with us and helping out with the station coverage. So with that, I'm going to have Justin read his oath of office, and then his sister will pin his badge on him. Hang on one second here. Justin, if you want to just raise your right hand and read that to me.
I, Justin Levine, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Thank you. And
Mariana.
Mariana, pin that on Justin. Thanks, Devin. Very good. And I'd like to introduce Justin Levine, one of our new badged firefighters.
Congratulations and welcome to the fire department. We're thrilled to have you as part of the team and looking forward to you having a long career with us.
Thank you. Do this here. We're going to spin this around so he can see you guys. There
Would any other board member like to address Justin at this time?
Sure, I'll say something. Congratulations and welcome to the team. We're always glad to have a new member, and I'm positive you'll enjoy working with the rest of our crew. It's a great crew, and thank you again.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, and Director English, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Justin, welcome to the team. We're thrilled to have another local firefighter on board. You've joined an excellent team with a tremendous leader. So hopefully you will get up to stride pretty quickly, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Congratulations.
Okay. Anyone else at this time? Okay. Well, thank you, Justin, and again, welcome. And hope you have a safe and happy holidays.
Thank you, you guys too.
We're going to take a couple of pictures and I'll be right back into my desk.
Okay. We also had on the agenda the introduction of Justin Black, the utilities manager who was recently hired, but unfortunately he is unable to be here this evening. So that will be something that will be deferred perhaps until the next meeting. Okay, so we'll hold off on that item. At this time, we'll move to public comments. Members of the public may address the board on any issue or item of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on tonight's agenda. In compliance with the Brown Act, the board cannot discuss or act on the items not on the agenda. However, board members or district staff members may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by the public. Additionally, on their own initiative or in response to questions posed by the public, a board or staff member may ask a question for clarification. Further, the board may request staff to report back to the body at a subsequent meeting concerning any matter or take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda item. So with that, I'll open it up to the public. If there's any item that you would like to address with the board that's not on tonight's agenda, you may do so now by muting your phone and introducing yourself. Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. And there are 4 items on tonight's consent agenda. The first item being the minutes, and this is to consider adoption of the regular meeting minutes of December 7th of 2021. You'll notice that our board secretary did send out a correction to page 9 of those minutes. You should have all received those, updating the ones that were in the packet. There's also the treasurer's report, and consider approving October 2021 treasurer's report. CEQA determination report, consider adopting resolution number 27-2021, finding the Bennett Way sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation project exempt from CEQA and approving the project. The 4th item is a budget amendment, and this is consider approving the budget amendment for the seal coat at Templeton Rec Center. Item D, I believe our general manager has asked that that be pulled so that we can make note of the account number where the expense is to be made. So that item will be pulled for some discussion. So before the board is items on the consent agenda, items A, the minutes, item B, the treasurer's report, and item C, the CEQA determination report. Would any board member like to pull any other item? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion that the board approve items A, B, and C, the minutes, the treasurer's report, and the CEQA determination.
I was shopping.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you first, let you do your names.
I'm sorry, someone doesn't have their phone muted. Thank you.
I'll second. Oops. I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion made by Director Logan, seconded by Director Giardini to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C. Can we have a roll call, please?
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Giardini,
Yes.
English,
Aye.
Fardonish,
Aye.
and Peterson.
All right.
That motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the fourth item on the consent agenda. This is the budget amendment, and consider approving a budget amendment for the Silk Coat at the Templeton Rec Center. And General Manager Brooks, do you want to speak to this in terms of the account number that this should be charged to that was not included in the staff report?
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to note for the record and ensure that the motion does include a reference to the account number where the expenditure would occur. We've noted in the report that it would be funded by asset replacement, but the expenditure would occur out of account number 30-70,000. Everything else in the report remains accurate. So it's a seal coat in the amount of $7,325.
Okay. Any questions from board members on that item? Yes, Director English.
Yeah, just a quick question for the general manager. So that was charged to the asset replacement account. Was this actually an asset that was depreciated? Had we specifically depreciated that? So it was something that was targeted for replacement?
Well, the building itself, all the assets that are part of the building and property are on our asset listing. I can't speak to how much of the value of the original paving back there was included, but the entire building and all of its equipment, items that are associated with it are part of our asset listing.
Thank you for the clarification, because this is an item that often gets overlooked in asset replacement, parking lot resurfacing and repaving. So just as we look next time at our asset replacement schedule during the budget, might be good to go back and make sure that those things are captured. So thank you for that. That's all my comments.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, I'll open it up to members of the public. If members of the public have questions regarding this particular item, the budget amendment, please unmute your phone and introduce yourself. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for consideration of approving the budget amendment for the Silk Coat at the Recreation Center. Okay, I'll make the motion that the board approve the budget amendment for the Silk Coat at Templeton Recreation Center. We have a second, please.
No second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Director Logan, seconded by Director English. May we have a roll call, please?
Oh, sorry about that. I can second it.
We already have a second, but thank you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We have
Directors Logan,
aye.
English,
Yes.
Fardonish,
Aye.
Giardini,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries 5-0. Moving on to our norms and code of ethics. As we regularly do, the Board of Directors has adopted operating principles of the board consisting of processing norms and a code of ethics. The board is committed to the practice of these norms and code of ethics to set the standards for communication, process, relationships, and capacity norms. In what appears to be a breach of a norm or code of ethics, we are committed to addressing this perception first with the individual involved before raising the issue with the board. It is in this spirit that at each board meeting, we review a norm and/or code of ethics as a reminder of our commitment. And so for this evening, I've selected the norm 4005-3, which reads, the board shall address and resolve policy issues and set priorities by building consensus through orderly conduct. And moving on now to our new business. The first item is the award of the agreement. And here's where the board will consider awarding a consulting arrangement with Roberto Mendia, architect for the fire station expansion. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Peterson to provide some background information on this item.
Yes, thank you, President Logan, members of the board. So as you all know, after completing our evaluation by AP Triton and entering our second year of 24/7 staffing, we realized that the current fire station is in need of expansion. There's several deficiencies that do not accommodate our current needs for kind of our diverse workforce. We currently don't have the necessary bathroom space, kitchens, bedrooms, office, or any of the other NFPA recommended rooms, such as clean rooms, laundry, locker rooms that provide that safe and efficient environment that's needed in a fire station to separate the carcinogens from a structure fire separate and keep them separate from the living quarters. On September 1st, 2021, staff sent out an RFP to the CSDA clearinghouse. That's in attachment A on your board packet. The deadline was November 1st of 2021, and staff received 2 proposals, which are attachments B and C in your board packet. Staff reviewed and scored the proposals and determined that Mr. Medina was the better fit and met all the requested criteria that we asked for in the proposal. The funds for this project are recommended to be taken from the Fire Capital Fund. Excuse me. Staff met with the Fire and Emergency Services Committee on December 9th to review the proposal, and the committee concurred with staff recommendations of Mr. Medina. Staff is recommending to the board, or that the board authorize a consulting service agreement with Rubio Medina architect to conduct the first phase conceptual drawing and cost estimates for the construction of a fire station expansion in the amount of $34,945. With this, that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions. Also, we have Rubio Medina, the architect, on the call also if I've got questions for him.
Okay, thank you for that.
Certainly.
And let me just add that the RFPs were reviewed at the fire committee meeting that Director Giardini and I sit on, and we both supported the recommendation that is being presented now to the board. So I just wanted to add that comment. Do any board members have questions for Chief Peterson at this time? Yes, Director English.
Thank you, Chief Peterson, and welcome, Mr. Medina. We certainly appreciate your attendance tonight, and you obviously have pretty impressive qualifications. For the fire chief, will this conceptual plans and cost estimates come back? How do you anticipate that process going once you've kind of finalized or determined which of the conceptual plans you want to move forward on? Will that come back before the board and then authorized to go forward with the construction drawings C and D?
Yeah, I think the way I envision this is that we will, if the board authorizes the contract with Mr. Medina, then what we will do is we will work with him through the process and probably have several back and forths to come up with a final drawing and cost estimates. And then at that point, we would present it to the board and say, this is kind of what we're looking at. This is the expansion phase. This is the interior changes. And then the cost estimates, present that to the board and proceed from there.
Great. Thank you. That's what I was hoping that would be the case. And then just a quick question regarding the contract. Will we own the conceptual drawings once they're developed?
I believe so. I can, Mr. Medina might be able to answer that better than I can, but yeah, I believe so. We'd be paying for it and they would be ours.
Okay, yeah, I want to make
Mr.
sure.
Mr. Medina?
Yeah, usually it's written in the contracts from the city that they own the drawings. In the absence of that language in the contract, the ownership relies with me, but typically the cities will ask for ownership of the drawings.
Not that we wouldn't move forward with Mr. Medina on the design, but for whatever reason we didn't, we want to make sure that we had the ability to move forward with those conceptual plans.
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
correct,
Understood.
yeah. Yeah.
Great, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members have questions at this time? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll move to members of the public. If members of the public have questions regarding the approval of the contract for the fire station expansion, you may unmute your phone and introduce yourself. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for deliberation on the recommendation. I'm going to make a motion that the board approve the consulting service agreement with Roberto Medina, the architect, for the preparation of the conceptual drawing and construction cost estimates for the fire station expansion in the amount of $34,945 and approve the budget amendment of $34,945 to account 60020 professional services.
I'll second.
Well, we have a second from Director English. All right.
Oh, sorry, my video,
Director-
I must be getting delayed.
Yeah,
Director Peterson.
Peterson. So it's Logan that made the motion and Director Peterson has seconded it. May I have a roll call, please?
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Fardonish,
Aye.
and Giardini.
Yes,
Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Medina, for joining our call this evening. We'll move on to resolution number 28-2021, revisions to the TCSD Board of Directors bylaws. And just by way of some background, I'll let Director or General Manager Broltz provide that. And then we can walk through it. So.
Sure, happy to do so. Thank you very much. Just again, the current board bylaws were largely put together about 9 years ago, adopted in early 2013. Since that time, there's been a couple of additions and minor changes that were made to various sections. But earlier this fall, we recognized there were a couple of places that had some obvious deficiencies or places where there was not sufficient guidance. For example, I brought one up to you, the board at your last meeting. The board bylaws were clear that the board appointed assistants to the board clerk, but it was absent as to whether or not they appointed the board clerk at all. So we suggested that you did based on the assistant language, but nonetheless, that was just as an example of an item that was missing. So you may recall about 3 or 4 meetings ago, Board President Logan asked for another board member to assist her in reviewing kind of an audit of the board bylaws, and board members Logan and Giardini performed that kind of audit and provided staff with a number of suggested changes. Staff then reviewed those suggested changes, exchanged some ideas back and forth with board members Logan and Giardini, and came up with these proposed revisions. Now, there are a number of changes that I don't think are worthy of spending time on tonight. Use of some grammar corrections and capitalization, those kind of things, non-substantive. But there are a handful of substantive changes, and I've outlined them in the staff report. I could quickly go through them. Some of these you probably have little or no discussion on, and others maybe are more meaningful and you'd like to stop and talk about them. So I would recommend just we'll go through them one at a time. And if you have questions of us or there's something you want to, go into further, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next one. So the first policy that has the material change is 4040.4 number 8. And that adds the duty to the board president of coordinating and delivering the general manager's evaluation. I think that's more of a recognition. That's not a change. It's more of just putting it in that, outlining that duty under that spot in the bylaws. The next one is 4045.1-.2. In this, excuse me, this one removes one of the duties of the board secretary for acting in the role of the board president if the board president and the board vice president are unavailable. And I think this originally is in here because it's part of the CSDA model. And in that model, it's oftentimes the board secretary might be one of the board members, one of the officers of the board. That's not the way we function at Templeton, but that's why it's in there. And the committee, these two board members, Logan and Jardine, recommended removing that. Again, unless I hear something from one of you, I'll just keep going. 4045.2 numbers 5 and 6. It clarifies that the board secretary posts agendas and certain notifications and creates records of proceedings. Again, it's not something new or a policy change, but it's just a clarification. 4047.2 revises the board policy or clarifies, because it's kind of absent right now, revises that policy that the general manager appoint the clerk to the board and assistants to the clerk to the board. Since your board clerk to the board and board secretary, kind of synonymous, have for many years been employees of the district and not a member of the board or a volunteer or something of that nature.
So just a
4060.
Hold on.
Just a clarification. So if for some point, some reason in the future, the board wants to change the way we function and wants to have a secretary as a member of the board, we'd have to go back and change the bylaws. So that's.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and just a comment is, in reading these bylaws, it's more for, it looks like a nonprofit or corporation. The bylaws really didn't speak to an elected board. And that's where there were some things that just seemed procedurally a little bit in conflict with how we currently operate. So that's part of the reason why some of this language has been revised to address really what our current procedures are, as opposed to how a nonprofit or a corporation might operate, where the board members may serve as the board secretary or any other officer role of the board. So, and let me ask you, General Manager Brill, since, would you want me to go through these? Would it be easier for your voice?
No, I'll be okay. I'll make it. This is our last item anyway. So,
Okay.
And so, and by the way, this has historically been adopted by resolution. So tonight there's a resolution that's proposed that would adopt these various changes. And so the board can continue to make changes to the bylaws at any time, provided there's a resolution before you. There's no other external restriction. Okay, so 4060.10 through, through 10 through 13 adds a requirement of board members to provide written or verbal reports of actions taken while on certain assigned committees. Again, I don't think that's a change in practice, but it codifies that in these bylaws. 5010.5 clarifies the process for selecting the board president or vice president clarifies there should be an opportunity for board members to ask questions of a potential nominee or of a nominee, and also for a member of the public to be able to speak during that process after the nominees are known. 5010.8 clarifies that this is really a replacement language for the removal of the board secretary duty to serve as the board president. So this clarifies that should both the board president and vice president be absent, be required to abstain, be missing from the board for whatever reason, that the remaining 3 board members will need to sort out who's going to chair the meeting that night. 5060.1.2. Here's some, I think, some areas that maybe are a little bit more policy changes or clarifications. These last several that deal with this section. Alters the policy of recordings for the purposes of making them publicly available and keeping them as long-term records. Right now, the bylaws say that the recordings, and this really references the audio recordings that we used to make, and now they're integrated into this video, audio, closed caption recording through Zoom. The current board bylaws say that they're only kept for 30 days. Their real purpose is only to be used as an aid in creating minutes, and after which they're not kept as a record. And so that therefore a member of the public would only have 30 days to request a copy, after which they may not exist. So this is a policy shift. And I would want to point, if the board is interested in doing this, we did do a demonstration of how this would become available. We wanted to make sure before you considered making this change that we were capable of doing what is suggested. If there's some discussion on this topic, we'd like to show you how it will look on our website.
Okay, Director English, you have a question?
And that was my exact question. Do we have the capability to do what we're proposing to do tonight? Because in the past, I know that we didn't. So we record them, we have a place to put them, and how are they accessible to the public? So
Carrie's figured this out, and so it's really terrific. Are you able to share your screen, Carrie, and pull up our website?
Yeah, let me go to it right now. So if you go to the Agenda Center and you go to the December 7th agenda, there's a TV icon under Media. If you click on that, it will take you to a YouTube channel for the district, which has the December 7th recording uploaded to it.
And so that is all saved in the cloud or on YouTube, so we don't have to worry about storage capability and backups and the like. So
yeah, I mean that's the goal. I mean, I can't say that this is will be kept in perpetuity, because we don't know what kind of arrangements YouTube might have in the future, but for now we're able to use this mechanism, and it's pretty commonly used. This sort of technique of posting to a YouTube channel or something similar, and then posting a link to the website avoids the issue of having to pay for additional storage with our web hosting company.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before we move on? Okay.
Okay, so I think this next one follows the next policy is dependent on, I believe the recommendation is dependent on the board accepting the one we just discussed. The next policy change is 5060.1.3, and that alters the policy of preparing what I'll call summary and detailed minutes that you're accustomed to what I will call action minutes, or a minutes of just the action that the board of directors takes, not anything that would be in detail. So I think that's probably worthy of some discussion. This has been brought up before. At the time, we weren't posting or capable of posting the recordings online. And you may recall we did have an audio recording historically before COVID. One of the challenges we ran into in posting that previously was concern that it would violate the ADA if we posted audio or video, but not something for somebody who's hearing impaired to follow. So we're using the technology either through Zoom, as you see right now, or through YouTube. Actually, it's a different transcription service through YouTube to provide this closed captioning type of service. It is not 100% accurate, but it's pretty darn good, and it comes at no cost to us either through Zoom or through YouTube. So that's why we were able to satisfy that ADA issue. I guess back to the minute issue and whether or not making the recordings like we just demonstrated satisfies the board's desire to have a lot of transparency and allows you to consider preparing action minutes as opposed to more detailed minutes.
And with that, I think it's worthy of noting also the next item, 5060-.1.4, which adds a provision for board members to request certain content to be included in the action meetings or the action minutes if requested during the meeting for which the minutes are taken. So if there's something that a board member wants specifically called out in those action minutes, they may do so during the course of the meeting. Yes, Director English.
I'm in favor of this. I think I'm familiar with action minutes. I think they're more effective for us, given the fact that we have the YouTube capability to preserve all of the discussion if somebody wants to go back and hear it. I would just want to make sure that that continues, and if that's not available, then we will need to record them. But I did want to comment that Carrie, your minutes of the last meeting were exceptional. They were very impressive, and so we won't get to see that anymore if we're going to move to this. So anyway, I'm in support of this.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from other board members? Director Peterson, are you in favor of moving to action minutes?
Yeah, I believe they're the way we should go.
Okay.
And I'd like to second what Director English said about Kara's minutes in the last board meeting. I thought they were very exceptional. I think maybe she should do those so we have both. Just kidding.
Okay, and Director Fardanish, are you also comfortable with moving to the action minutes?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, and I'm going to ask, I just want to pause at this time to ask members of the public if members of the public wish to comment on moving towards action minutes and any of the items that have been covered thus far. You may unmute your phone and introduce yourself and provide any comments on this particular item. Okay, hearing and seeing none, then we'll continue on then to 1.5.
Yes, so this is this clarifies that items that are submitted to the board from the public after the board packet has been posted or provided to you shall be maintained as a part of the public record. And again, I can demonstrate to you, since we got this recommendation from the two board members working on this amendment, we made some changes to the website, and Carrie could probably bring up again the maybe how tonight's meeting's posted, and we can walk you through how we intend on using this. Again, using the website as a tool to keep these archives of items. So we'll go to tonight's board meeting, which is Carrie just selected it. And if you scroll down to the very bottom, there's a new link that says it's any items distributed after the posting of the agenda will be uploaded there. And so you'll recall that we provided revised meeting minutes. There were very minor revisions, but we provided those to you. And so what we intend to do is anything that we provide to you, particularly items from the public, we're going to add here. And additionally, again, if the board wishes, Additionally, picture us back at some point in a meeting room, and let's say something is handed out. That was not an uncommon way to deal with items from the public before. Maybe a letter would be submitted during the course of the meeting. If that were to happen in the future, or if a member of the public would email something right now, we would, after the meeting, post that item under this in the same location on the website, so that in the future, any member of the public could go and see what the board had available to you when you deliberated during that course of that particular meeting. So it creates kind of an archive of any additional items.
Perfect. Any questions from board members on that? Okay, all right.
And then there's only one more, and that's 5070.4. And that states that the minutes will include the names and places of residence, if those are provided, from anyone who speaks before the board.
Okay, any additional questions from members of the board? Director English.
Yes, and thank you for these. I support all these. My understanding, though, is that if somebody from the public does not want to state their name or their address, they don't have to. I've heard that legal interpretation before by city attorneys in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's also my understanding. And so we revised this. We've gone back and forth on this little item. And so it now says if those are provided, you're correct. The board cannot direct or mandate that someone who speaks before the board provide their address, for example.
Great, thank you. And then I did have one other comment at section 5070.4.6. 4.6 was actually removed. It was a motion to adjourn. A meeting may be adjourned by motion made, seconded and approved by a majority of the board voting on a main motion. So why was that removed? And that was not highlighted by the general manager as one of the substantive changes, because I think that, I just want to clarify, I think the board has the right to adjourn a meeting at any time if we choose to do so by majority.
Yeah, but the reason why it was removed is, again, going back to these bylaws seem like they're a template for a nonprofit or a corporation. But because we're under the Brown Act, it's really a matter of adjourning a meeting. Is our meetings are adjourned when we complete our agenda. So for example, if we get to where make a motion to adjourn a meeting, it could be that, what if nobody wants to make that motion, or what if the motion doesn't carry? We can't continue having the meeting. And so that's why it was taken out.
Okay, yeah, I just want to, I realize at the end of the meeting, you just end the meeting, it's over. I mean, we're done with the agenda. But for instance, we're deliberating on an item and it's 11 o'clock at night, and a majority of the board wants to end the meeting, and the president doesn't want to. I think the majority of the board has the right to adjourn the meeting if they so choose. Is it?
Yeah, I look at it a little differently. But I understand your point. And I'm trying to get to that section to see how it's currently reading.
So yeah, it's just my recommendation to leave that item in. Procedurally, it gives the board an option, and but it doesn't really it doesn't change the way we operate.
Yeah.
I would not be supportive of removing that item.
And that was 5070.
5070.4.6.
Motion to adjourn a meeting may be adjourned by motion.
And President Logan, I have my hand raised.
Oh, okay. Okay. And Director Giardini, you have a comment?
I think Director English might have a good point. I was thinking of it in a different terms. Let's say we have something contentious on the board meeting, and if and ever when we get to have meetings in person again, something happens or a fire breaks out or something like that, we might have to, in the middle of a board meeting, adjourn the meeting early for some emergency or something like that. So I think when you and I were reviewing these, we didn't think of that. So
Yeah.
I think that maybe if there's a way of rewording that last one so that we don't have to adjourn the meeting if it's just a regular meeting, but that maybe rewording it so that, if necessary, due to a special circumstance, the board meeting can be adjourned with a majority of votes, something around that line.
I'm okay with just leaving the language as is because it says may be, which doesn't say that it has to be adjourned, but it leaves it open. Just saying a meeting may be adjourned by a motion made, seconded and approved. So I don't think we need to put that it's if this particular situation arises. I think it's
Okay.
okay the way it reads. So I'm fine with leaving that in. And it sounds like you are as well. Director
Yeah, I think
Giardini.
Director English brought out a good point that
Yeah.
made me think other issues. So I think that's good.
Okay, is anyone on the board opposed, Director Fardanish or Peterson, are you opposed or to having this removed, or you're okay with leaving it in?
I think I should leave it in.
Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and leave it in. And in terms of the other changes, are there any other questions or comments that the board may have? Director English?
Yeah, I just want to thank Director Giardini and Director Logan for the work on this. I think the changes are appropriate and I'm in support. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, General Manager Brils was also part of this as well in the reviewing. So thank you. It was our pleasure in getting this done and really kind of reflecting more of the procedures that we have in place, putting it in writing. General Manager Brils, you have a comment?
Yes, I just want to state that we provided this to you in two versions, the track changes version and a clean version. The clean version is labeled as an exhibit to the resolution. But if the board does include in your motion to accept all changes with the exception of just that one, that would be great. And then additionally, the exhibit to the resolution will be updated before the resolution is signed to reflect the date of adoption. We didn't do that in the exhibit, and we'll do so prior to the resolution actually being signed. Therefore, anyone who was to look at this in the future would be able to determine when the last revision was made.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions from the board regarding these changes before I open it up to members of the public? Okay, with that, I'll open it up to members of the public. If there's questions or comments that you have regarding the revisions to the board's bylaws, you may unmute your phone and provide your comments or questions at this time. Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for deliberation. So the recommended action is that the board adopt resolution number 28-2021, approving the minor revisions to the TCSD policy handbook bylaws and amending it to keep in section 5070.4.6. We have a motion to approve. Director
Move
English.
approval.
Okay. And we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Director English, seconded by Director Peterson. May we have a roll call, please?
Directors English,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Fardanish,
Aye.
Giardini,
Yes.
and Logan.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes 5-0. And we'll move now to our general manager's report. General Manager Brooks.
Yes, thank you once again. A couple of items to share. One, it was announced by the state that the special districts that had applied for the COVID relief funding has now been determined. Templeton CSD will receive $9,535. We had applied for about 30,000 in relief funding. So we're getting about a third of what we had requested. Again, we were largely ineligible to receive the revenue loss portion of the funding because they, in my mind, very erroneously only considered district-wide funding as opposed to each funding for each fund. And as you know, we had a Measure A kicked in during 2021, which really skewed our overall district revenue. It was actually up the first year of COVID. And obviously we could not use any of those funds. They're restricted to cover the losses, like in Parks and Recreation, where we did have about $70,000 in reduced excuse me, earnings or revenue. And then just a quick reminder to all of you, the district does celebrate Christmas Eve and Christmas Day as holidays. Because Christmas Day falls on a Saturday, those holidays are shifted up a day. So we are closed this Thursday and this Friday for the Christmas holiday. And then we celebrate New Year's Eve with a half-day closure and New Year's Day with a one-day closure. And it's the same kind of issue. Those are on a Friday and Saturday. So they move up a day. And the district office will be closed Thursday afternoon and all day Friday of next week as well. Happy to take any questions that you might have.
I'll open it up to members of the board if you have questions for the general manager. Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up to the public. If members of the public have questions of the general manager, please unmute your phone and introduce yourself. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Thank you very much for that update. We'll move now to committee reports. There is a Fire and Emergency Management Committee report in your packet from December 9th. Do any board members have questions? Director English.
I'm sorry, I don't have any questions. I do have a couple reports to make when the opportunity comes up.
Okay, thank you. And any other questions regarding the fire department report? Okay, I'll open it up to members of the public. If members of the public have questions regarding the Fire and Emergency Management Committee meeting held on December 9th, please unmute your phone and introduce yourself. Yes, General Manager Brooks.
Jumped in probably a little too late. I just wanted to point out, you have very detailed minutes again from that committee meeting. Now that the board bylaw policy has changed to action minutes, the minutes for committee meetings will follow suit, provided a recording of the actual meeting is available. So that's how we interpreted that proposed revision. So in this case, the meeting was held on Zoom. A recording could have been made available, and it would work the same way as a board meeting. There are going to be some meetings where a recording is difficult or may not be available. You recall we sometimes hold meetings at the wastewater plant or do tours. The recordings are not going to be possible there. So we'll have the minutes for those types of meetings maybe somewhat more detailed so that the rest of you can follow along with what was discussed because the recording wouldn't have been available.
Good point. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, moving on from the Fire and Emergency Management Committee meeting. Director English, you have other committee reports that you'd like to share?
Yes, I do have two. First was the TAG meeting. There was a TAG meeting held on Thursday, December 16th. Very light agenda. They didn't review any development projects for consideration. The only thing that was significant is they're looking for TAG members as usual. There's a call out for anybody in the public who is interested in serving on TAG. And so there's a call for candidates, and those anybody interested should contact Bruce Jones. And if they need assistance, I can get them in touch with Bruce Jones. And then the other report is on the TRF. Wanted to let the board know that finally the IRS has responded to TRF. We've now been formally recognized as an independent 501c3 with a changed name, and our formal name now is the Templeton Recreation Foundation. And so that's exciting, kind of moving forward on many fronts on TRF. There was just a recent fundraiser that raised well over $1,000 that will come back to the services district. The date for the beer run has been established. So Wayne, get this on your calendar. July 9th, 2022. We're really promoting that, and expect that to be the largest ever this year. And then finally, TRF established a scholarship fund, and the intent of the scholarship fund is to provide scholarships for children who want to and can't afford to participate in Templeton Community Services District recreation programs. At our recent meeting, we just authorized 5 scholarships at $100 a piece for children to play basketball. So exciting. We have some money that was donated for specifically for scholarships, and that money's already coming back to the services district. So excited about that. That concludes my reports. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions from members of the board of Director English? Okay, members of the public, do you have questions for Director English regarding TRF and his tag report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to directors' reports and/or comments of any meetings that you've attended on behalf of the district. Any comments? Yes, Director Fardanish.
Yes, thank you. Last Tuesday, General Manager and I, on behalf of the board, we passed out ham and gift card, as well as a letter that we had all signed for Christmas to all employees. We went to different sites, and overall, in general, it was a really positive experience. The staff were really appreciative of receiving the gift card and the ham, and all wished everyone happy holidays. And so it was a very positive experience. I also want to thank General Manager for putting this all together. It was a bit of a challenge, seemed like, to get the ham from Costco. It took several trips and several hours, but he did it. And so thank you, appreciate that. And I think it was a very positive experience. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, I was not able to participate in that. So, and I would have liked to have also seen the staff's reaction. So I'm glad that somebody from the board went and participated. So thank you for sharing that. Any other directors have anything to report on at this time? Okay, then we'll move on. Just so you know, again, as a reminder, our June 4th board meeting has been canceled. And we do have our next meeting scheduled for January 18th. The committee assignments for 2022, I will be asking or sending an email to the general manager asking that he distributed to all board members regarding committee assignments to see if anyone is interested in making any changes on committees. So that will be probably coming out in the next few days. The next item that we'll also talk about on the 18th is the notice of completion and budget amendment for the boardroom technology upgrade projects. And hopefully someday soon, we'll be able to use that board meeting or boardroom with the new technology. And that's all, the only two items that we have on the agenda at this time. I don't know when we are looking to have our mid-state contract or service agreement come before the board. Do you have a particular date for that, General Manager?
We're still in the process of negotiating some of the revisions to the amendment before it could come before you. But it's possible it can make it by the middle of January. I'm not aware of any provider that's yet reached a formal agreement with their agency. So as you know, there's been just a lot of moving parts with regard to SB 1383 compliance, and then all the changes that IWMA has had. And so it's not being artificially delayed. As a matter of fact, I just shared a new version on Thursday of the agreement with our providers. So we're continuing to work back and forth. We exchanged emails as recently as today.
Okay, so that, so we'll wait to see when that's ready to come before the board, maybe the 18th, maybe February. So, okay. So with that, we can adjourn the meeting. I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's, and be safe. So thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Great job, Carrie.